Hello, this is Miss Pie again with another Graphing Pictures video helps. This one I am going to cover limiting your Y values. And before we get started, a couple things that you need to know is, number one, you can only limit the Y value when you graph the function as a relationship. Okay, so notice this says Y equals, not F of 1 of X equals or anything like that. It also doesn't say equation here. Okay, so you can only limit the Y values when it says relation. REL stands for relationship, and that's the only way you can limit the Y values. The other restriction is that not all types of equations will be able to be limited. So for example, this one, if I graph this one, I know I probably want to limit it about right here, and if I want to just limit the Y values, it would be 1, 2, 3, 4. So when I want Y to be less than 4, so hopefully you watched the other video where I showed you how to pull up the such as line. And then normally I would just do Y is less than, so control equals pulls up all your inequalities. There's our less than symbol 4, and I go ahead and push enter and I get this error message, and you can read over it if you want. It is kind of interesting. It does give some examples of ones that you can limit the Y values on, or functions that you can put limits on. Notice on this one, you have you're limiting the x, not the y, for the sine function. And then on this equation here, they show you how to limit both the x and the y. Okay, so you can limit both x and y, or just x, or just y. But again, not all functions allow you to limit your y value. And there's actually quite a few functions that you cannot limit the y value on. The square root function is one of the ones that you cannot limit y value on it, okay? Some of the ones that you can limit your y value on are linear equations. So with this one, I just want to graph the main, what is that pole on the ship? The mast pole? I don't know, whatever it's called. Sorry. So I want to limit this, and I'm going to limit it both at the top and at the bottom here. And when I put the limits, and I'm doing two different limits, I want to do the lowest point first and then the highest point. So in this case, my lowest point is probably, let's see, 1, 2, 3, 4, about 4.2 maybe, negative 4.2. And then my upper limit is 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, maybe 6. Okay, so notice I have it graphed as a relationship, and I'm going to pull up my such as line, and I'm going to say negative 4.2 is less than y, and y is less than, I think I said positive 6. Okay, remember, make sure you have the lowest number here and then the highest number there. All right, I push enter, and there's my limit. Now, with this label here, it's kind of hard to see. Well, I hid my graph instead of, I'm trying to hide this. There we go. So if I hide that value there, I can see that I probably want it to go up a little bit higher. And again, I can double click on it, and then notice my cursor was over here. If I try to push delete to move it over, it's going to delete this whole thing. So I'm going to use my mouse pad to move over to the right by the 6, and let's say 6.2, and enter, and it looks like it looks better there. All right, so linear functions are ones that you can limit the y values on as long as you first graph it as a relationship. Some other ones that you can limit your y values on are quadratics. Here is an example of my quadratic function that I limited to do the bow of the ship. I think that's called the bow of a ship. Anyway, notice that I can limit both the y value and the x value. The trick is you do one limitation and then space. And let me see, where's the space bar? Right here. This button right here is where the space bar right there. And then you type out the word and then your x limit. Okay, I can't remember if there's a space between there or not. Yep. So you have to have, you do one limit, your space, the word and, another space, and then the other limit. Okay? And that way you can limit both the x value and the x value and the y value. All right, so linear equations, you can limit y values. Quadratic equations, you can limit y values. Cubic equations, you can limit the y values. Quartic, I think this is, yeah, quartic, you can limit the y value. Notice I'm having this here with a quartic. So basically, pretty much linear and all your polynomial type functions, you can limit the y values on all of those. Logarithm and exponentials, I would love to be able to limit these, limit the y values here and here, but those are no-nos. You cannot limit the y values for logarithms or exponential functions. Absolute value functions, nope, I tried it, and honestly, it's just easier to do linear equations instead of absolute value anyway. But just in case, let's say your teacher requires you to do absolute values somewhere, just limit your x values on that. Rational functions are another one that you cannot limit the y values. It would be so awesome if you could, but the calculator is not programmed to let you limit your y values. Any trig functions, sine, cosine, tangent, cotangent, all of those, you cannot limit the y values. You can limit your x values, but not the y values for your trig functions. And then your conic functions, which is really cool, you can limit the y values as long as after you figure out what the formula is with your equation template things. You know, when you come here to menu, graph, and equation templates, like let's say we wanted to graph a circle or a parabola or hyperbola or whatever. You can graph it as an equation. Let's just do one really quickly. I have no idea where I want it. Right there. Let's say we have this, and whoops, I have no idea what that's doing. All right, let me hide this equation. Let's say we want to just put this in the middle of our cell, and let's say I was going for like a smiley face or something like that, and I just wanted to limit it, so that's +2. This grid line is at +2. Let's say I just wanted to limit it right there when y is less than +2, and have just part of a crescent. Remember, I said in the video about limiting your x values, if you have it in equation form here and you try to limit it, you pull up the such as line, nothing happens. You can't limit your equations. So you would have to highlight the whole thing, Control C to copy it, go ahead and hide that, and then go in and graph a relationship. And then when you're there, do Control V to paste. And then once you have it in as a relationship, then you can go ahead and set your limit up. Such as line, and then do, I think we said y was less than 2. And you do that, and I get this cool little crescent shaped thing here. Almost like one of those closed eyeballs or something. Anyway, so let me see. I think that's it. Yep, that's it for the video. Biggest thing, remember which functions you can limit the y values on. Conics, polynomial, and linear equations are pretty much it. And remember, you have to have it graphed as a relationship. It should say REL right here, not E or F. Those don't work. All right. Thanks for watching.